Think big, think positive. Never show any sign of weakness. Always go for the throat. Buy low, sell high. Fear, that's the other guy's problem. Nothing you have ever witnessed will prepare you for the absolute carnage you're about to witness. It's Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome back to another episode of the Very Serious Business Podcast. The show that explores the old ways of making money are the only ways. Today, we'll speak with Humperdinck Elderman, a man whose motto is, if you're happy in your field of work, then you're obviously not working hard enough.
Hold up. Humperdinck? Seriously? I don't think so. Welcome to 2018, people, the year where we strive to thrive each and every day. And don't use words like Humperdinck. Want to know how you can get started? You need to listen to the amazing episodes that Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond has to offer. Want to jumpstart your business? Thrive Loud. Looking to be inspired? Thrive Loud. Want to work smart and not hard? Thrive Loud. Drop kick the old stuffy way of doing things and get out there and change the world. Listen to Lou Diamond as he brings you the smartest leaders and most dynamic guests with the most energizing messages. Listen to Thrive Loud and you and your business will start thriving too.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. Today on Thrive Loud, we bring you a woman who, after 10 years working as a television news reporter and anchor in Philly and New York, is an amazing individual that decided to use her knowledge and experience in the media to help propel businesses and position companies as thought leaders. She is the president and CEO of MB & Associates and is now one of the nation's most sought after and respected publicists. She is the author of Intermission: How Fervor, Friendships, and Faith Took Me to the Second Act, which actually hit stores in late February. She's also the TV host of More with Mindie on RVNTV. Thrive Loud listeners, you're going to enjoy this interview where I got a chance to sit down with Mindie Barnett. Okay, so Mindie, you've had a really cool career. What I'd love, and I know the Thrive Loud listeners would love to hear, is a little about your journey on how you left being on-camera reporter into a world that is a little bit different, but also related. And I think we'd love to connect the dots there. Can you do that for us?
I would be happy to, Lou. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Awesome.
Okay, so I always wanted to be in television news, probably since the age of about 14. I've always loved to act. I love to perform, be on stage, and always had a passion for writing. So it became natural to just combine the fields, right?
What specifically at 14 made you want to be on camera? Was it like
if
a
you knew
play?
me at age 2, Lou, you wouldn't have a question in your mind. I was...
Okay.
One of those, mommy, take me to an audition. I want to be Annie. I want to be on stage. I did ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop. I modeled a little when I was a kid. I loved being in front of an audience. I could entertain myself in front of a wall, in fact. So, and I probably still can do that today. But to that, I didn't want to be a struggling artist. I always loved to write. I really came into my own in high school and through college. And as I said earlier, married the two and became, a news anchor reporter. So I did that for a number of years. And then I was reaching the age of about 30. And
Wait, how's that possible?
Oh, Lou, you're so funny. No, I am. I like to say that
we
I
flustered
look
her,
younger than I am. But
Thrive Loud listeners, we flustered her. This was pretty good. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so at any rate, I was reaching the age 30. I had very dear friends that were, doing that typical getting married, having kids, the whole nine. I was enjoying a very fulfilling career, but living at the time in Champaign, Illinois, with my dog Sydney, who, rest his soul, was my traveling buddy for pretty much my entire news career, moving around from town to town and city to city, state to state. And at the time, thankfully today she's fine. My mom was ill, and I was making the trek back to the East Coast on the weekends to see her. And I just said to myself, Mindie, I think it's time to make a change with your life, right? So when I was in college back at Hofstra, when I was studying very diligently to become a news anchor, my father, who was always the one to say prepare for plan B, encouraged me to earn some stripes in the PR field. So I worked for the vice president of Hofstra University for 2 years in the media department, and worked on press releases and press conferences, etc. And so I had some experience in that field. So I always thought when I quote grow up one day, not that news isn't, but like when I had my fill, or I was not able to make it to a big market and make like big money and things like that one day maybe I would pursue PR. So at that point, in about 30, I decided it was time to make a move. So I left, and I worked for a woman in Philadelphia for about 2 months who was, while she was an amazing person in her field, she wasn't the most friendly, say. So I resigned, and basically was left with, what am I going to do now? And literally fell into my own business out of default. So that's a whole other story.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual work you do. There's many different specific industries that PR can actually be focused on.
Correct.
What specifically is your area of expertise, and why do people come to you?
Okay, so PR obviously has a lot of arms, as you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's media planning, there's media strategy, there's event planning, and marketing too. I am a media strategist. I'd say 90% of what my firm does, in addition to now social media strategy, because you can't obviously ignore Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. We work diligently on putting our clients in the news, working as mini producers, as I like to say, or editors, coming up with story ideas on their behalf, which are either something that's trending, something that's headline related, something new, if it's a doctor, for instance, that the FDA recently approved, or a new study that they can comment about, or they have a patient to back it up to, or maybe not just sticking with medicine, but just because it's in my head at the moment, there's nothing new, but they have a compelling case that came in. I'll come up with a media pitch, and I'll book them, or I'll get them booked, I should say, on shows like The Doctors or Dr. Oz, or here in New York, Pix 11 or Fox 5. And, we work with clients all over the country. So I have, some clients that do things out in LA, Florida. I had a client today on NBC in West Palm Beach. So it depends. We're basically coming up with news stories on behalf of the clients based on what their field is, their area of expertise, and the producers and editors appreciate that because we're providing them with real news, not commercials.
We know you're loving this amazing interview on Thrive Loud and how Lou is connecting with our guest. If you want to learn the skills Lou speaks about to audiences all over the world, head on over to loudiamond.net and order a copy of Lou's best-selling book, Master the Art of Connecting. Once you master how to connect, you'll thrive loud too. Okay, back to the show.
It's a nice segue, right? Because when you were whether reporting on the news in front of the camera, or being around the story in some short, quick snippet that has to be on the news for that clip,
right?
You're familiar with the content, you're familiar with packaging it, and now you're doing it for other people.
Right. So I still identify myself as a journalist. I still write for some magazines. I like to keep my skills sharp and all of that. But because I put my reporter's hat on, I'd say all day long, it never comes off. I'm always looking to do right by the producers or editors or reporters or whomever I'm working with on that particular story, so that I am definitely providing them with a story. I'm not like fluffing it up for them. The client is obviously being well branded and well positioned and, and exposed, depending on whatever, and in a good way exposed. But
we're trying to avoid the bad exposure. Hope, right? Yes.
But at any rate, I think that they appreciate that. And I think, obviously in Philly, I was somewhat well known. But now that I've been in the industry for going on 16 years, it'll be 16 years in December, I do like to think that I have kind of created a reputation for myself that I'm respected. I work with producers. GMA will know they're getting a real story from me. Right. The Today Show, they know that they're getting bring the real deal. And I'm going to go above and beyond what my, quote, role is as a publicist to provide them all of the bells and whistles, make sure that I'm over-delivering whatever, I pitch them. And if they need another source or an opposing source or whatever it may be, I will, if they want me to, be happy to secure that. Obviously not representing that other person, but so that they have a complete piece, and therefore they'll be more inclined to take my pitch and also more inclined to reach out to me when they have a story that they're looking to follow, to see if I have an expert that might fit that criteria. And trust me, I never say no.
No.
Even if I don't, I find someone.
So wait, this is a good question that I've always wanted to ask from your seat. I always find it interesting that in the roles of helping to provide the right media strategy for clients, you actually have clients who are paying you to provide your services.
Right.
And whether we want to recognize it or not, we have other clients who end up being the media outlets that you're communicating with, almost treating them as such. Who's more of a pain to you in dealing with in your job? Which side of the coin is more difficult in your role?
So interesting that you should ask that, Lou. So I often say to my team, because I have an amazing team at MBN Associates, every day is a teeter-totter, everybody. You're on a teeter-totter. But the good thing is, and I will answer your question, at the end of the day, we can close our door and hang up the phone, and it's us. It's our team. But it really depends on the way the wind's blowing. I mean, I wouldn't say they're pains. I'd say they're demanding. I mean, the news is obviously it's a high-paced, fast-paced, I should say, high-stressed, industry, and they have people they're answering to. And, while my clients are amazing, and I like to think I'm amazing, they can call any publicist, they can work with any doctor, they can work with any attorney. They don't need to work with my people, per se. And I also, know that, my clients, well, they're amazing too. Some of them don't fully get that the news doesn't necessarily need them. So it's tough. But I am equally nice and very diplomatic to both.
This was the greatest. That was the greatest publicist spin ever for talking about what would work well there. Great job, CYAing the whole situation. I like that a lot.
You just smile through, and then you just at the end of the day, no one died. That's my theory. Whatever.
Well,
I mean,
what you actually said is really important. That helping people get out of their own ego, whatever side they're on, whether they're the best network outlet or whether they're your clients who think that they have the greatest message to share, it's more important for them to recognize that there's kind of a little bit of a privilege. And if you go in there with that ego-less way of doing it, one, people like working with you. Two, your message actually comes out much more clearly because all the clutter of having to deal with, oh, that's a high-maintenance person or there's this person or that, whatever, is interesting. And I know from people who've sat in your seat, whether they're doing what you do, I've personally dealt with it, people who deal as agents or speaker bureaus and helping to deal with meeting planners and all that sit in the middle. It's a challenge. Mm-hmm. It's a real balance back and forth on recognizing what's the product on the shelf and who's the client you're serving. Mm-hmm. So I think there's an appreciation. And I guess one of the things you have in a great team that you're talking about, what is that secret sauce that people love working with your organization the most?
My organization, I think because they know that we're going to deliver. And I really like to say, because we're boutique and because my name's on the door at the end of the day, we really mesh with a client. And I always say, we're outsourced, but you're going to feel like we're right in-house. I mean, I over-communicate. I mean, I'll over-communicate. I'm available to them probably to my detriment, but it's fine. I don't care. I love what I do and I'm passionate about what I do. I'm at their disposal 24/7 on the weekends, on holidays. I mean, it's fine. I'm there for them. And same with the news. They can call me and they switch things on me all the time. And I'm like, fine, no problem. I might be stressed inside, but they'll never know. And they appreciate that. So it's really just kind of biting your tongue a lot. And I mean, you do. I see that we'll get into that later, but with my book, sometimes you have to bite your tongue till it bleeds, and you literally, in my field, kind of have to, because you have to make sure everyone's happy. And I guess that might just come naturally to me. I'm someone that doesn't necessarily gravitate toward conflict. I like to have harmony, and I mean, everyone to be, just happy, and like things are going well, and nothing makes me feel better than when everyone's like content. So, I want to deliver a good product. I want my client to feel good, the whole bit. And sometimes it takes educating the client in a very diplomatic way, as you said.
So you run a business, you balance back and forth this crazy schedule of life that you're dealing, and you wrote a book.
Yes.
So share with the Thrive Out listeners why you wrote this book and what's the key message behind it.
Okay, so I've always wanted to write a book. I just wasn't sure exactly what I was going to write the book about. And a lot of my friends, mommy friends of mine, and even friends that I've now gotten reacquainted with being here in New York more, frequently, obviously being a part-time resident in the city, etc. I was approached, how do you get into business? How did you do this? How did you do that? And I mean, it's not as though my story's odd in the sense that I didn't sit down with a business plan and decide, okay, I'm going to start MB and Associates. I literally did it the other way around. It was like sort of backwards. I actually was working for myself for about 6 months before I realized that I actually had a business. And then I was just having people write me checks personally. And then I said, I guess I should start an LLC because it's like actually a thriving business, et cetera. And so I did it that way. So that was like one part. I wanted to help people, give them like some sort of like, tools about like a you can attitude. I feel as though that's really what helped me propel me into the crazy industry of television news. Literally got hired 2 days after graduation because I was insane and applying like to places like probably starting right after like our winter break. I went right into like starting my own business, like again backwards, but like just knowing that I could help people and get them on the news and do little things for them here and there. And by word of mouth, I was very lucky that I just organically grew in that way. And then personally, I recently, in a sense, it was 3 years ago, but I went through a big life change and I got divorced, and I did it with grace. And I have harmony with my ex-husband. We co-parent beautifully, and I am very proud of that. And a couple other friends had approached me saying, how are you doing this, and how did you get divorced, and you seem so happy, and da 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 da. And I just felt like maybe I'll marry all of those lessons. And then the book's mission just sort of evolved through writing it, as you know, because you've written a book. That was always going to be my mission, but then I turned it into a memoir. Instead of just like shouting lessons out at people, I thought I'm going to dig deep and share my own personal stories, stories of trial, triumph. Life isn't always like singing music, and that's why I call it intermission. It's that pause when the lights go down on stage, when you go out, get your drink and use the restroom and get some wine or whatever you're going to do, and then you go back into your seat and you wait for the lights to come back on for Act 2. So what do you do in that intermission? Whether it's changing your career or going through a divorce or just ending an unhealthy relationship or deciding to go back to work if you were a stay-at-home parent, or moving to a new state, or maybe dealing with a family death, a parent or a loved one, a spouse. Like, what do you do in that time so that you don't slip into this depression? Mm-hmm. You don't lose yourself. You don't lose your friends, and you actually grow and become even better. I'm so happy. I mean, obviously, I don't wake up every day singing like Zippity Doo-Dah. I mean, but...
You should. It's a very good song. It makes you smile every day.
Zippity Doo-Dah. I like to sing, Lou,
I can
too.
tell you can
I know.
sing.
I'm like holding your mic like I could do a karaoke right now. But at any rate, it is a good song. I like Disney World.
See, it made you smile.
Anyway, I mean, every day, there's struggles. Every day is like an amazing day. I'm not going to lie, but I'm in a really good place. And I think that because I used my intermission in a very positive way, and even when some negative things happened to me, I didn't dwell on them, and I looked at them as a learning lesson, because I do look at every defeat as an opportunity to grow and learn. It made me, and it turned me into the person that I am, sitting on this couch with you right now.
I do like how you've made it into a show thing, since you've always been involved in the theater and on TV and screen, and as we've just turned, have the ability to perform. This is an interesting question. I love to ask those that write a book, how did you find the writing process? How did you do the writing process? Was it like it all just came out all at once? Was it something you needed to speak out? How did it work
No,
for you?
it's actually another backwards story. So I like to walk backwards. At any rate,
Walking
no,
backwards.
I had this concept for the book, right? And then I spoke with a very dear friend of mine who is a literary agent. And we did coffee. And I said, her name's Karen Ammond. And I said, Karen, I want to write a book. I don't know how to do it, and I know you're the expert. So she said, okay, Mindie, this is what you need to do. You need a proposal. I'll shop it to some agents. I'll see if there's some interest. So I was in the process of doing that, right? I put an outline together. I was like writing the proposal with an editor she hooked me up with some woman that's out, who's amazing, Julie McCarran. She's out in LA. And together, teamwork, I was taking the reins of the writing because I love to write, but she was helping me with like the construction of this proposal because, as you probably know, it's quite a feat, to say the least, right? Yeah, exactly. So at any rate, and then in the middle of all that, I have this prospect meeting with a client he wasn't then, but now he is, right? And he was talking, he's an entrepreneur, he's done it all, like one of those amazing man, Paul Ciarto. And at any rate, he was telling me that he had a book. And, we were talking, it was part of his campaign. I was going to be pitching the book and all of that. So at the end of the meeting, I never really do this, but I was curious. I said, how did you get he had a publisher. That was another thing. Not that there's anything wrong with self-publishing, but I just know, having been, obviously a representative of authors, it's a little more difficult to book someone who's self-published versus published. At least that's been my experience, right? So maybe not. But
no,
you can agree. I don't know.
For the Thrive Lab listeners,
did you self-publish your book?
I self-published. Let's just put it this way: there is no right or
There's
wrong
no right
way.
or wrong way.
Either avenue works.
That was just exactly, I guess, but that was just my understanding. And from speaking with her, who obviously she's hired by publishers, this woman Karen. That's sort of like what was in my mindset. Okay, so I was just curious how he got I heard it was very hard to get a publisher. And then the agent takes money, and you're not writing a book for money, but you're doing it for other reasons typically. But anyway, whatever. So sorry, I take a very long time to tell a story, clearly, but to that, I was talking to him about that, and he said, I think my publisher would really like you. I said, he would? He said, yeah, I think he really would. You're really marketable. You have a lot of personality. I think that you would do really well for them. So it's a business. They don't care. I mean, they care, but as the book sells, that's what obviously the publisher cares about the most. So he put me in touch with them, Post Hill Press. I met with Anthony Zaccardi, and so at any rate, we sat down for a drink in New York, and he's like, listen, before you start to tell me what you want to write about, because I hadn't written the book yet, he said, I want to know about you. So we sat to talking all about my history, sort of like this, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, I want to publish your book. So what do you want to write about?
Oh, that's really good.
Right. And he, and I said, well, this is what I want to write. He gave me guidance, and we obviously, like, he helped me navigate, like, the waters, if you will, so that it was very fine-tuned. But and so I come back and I call Karen from this meeting, and I call Karen and I said, I just got a publisher. She's like, are you kidding me? Do you know how hard that is? So I was very, very excited about that. And then as luck would have it, this was January of this year. Mm-hmm. I needed to deliver the manuscript by July 1st. So I needed to knuckle down and write. So with Julie, who is helping me edit, I was able to, swiftly spit out the book in a very eloquent way. No, so but it's a very long process, and I'm so, it's funny. People are like, oh, are you really proud of your book? I said, it's like you have this baby. It literally is, I birthed the book. So I'm like, well, I think the baby's beautiful. Right. But did you ever see that Seinfeld episode where they look at the baby ugly, and the baby's ugly looking? I'm like, well, I think it's beautiful, and that's all I care. I hope it helps people.
I have a good word of advice for whatever it is. And by the way, I'm sure the book is amazing.
Thank
and it's
you.
Awesome.
I've gotten good feedback so far, so I hope.
It's not nearly as important. What all that matters is to you as the author that you gave out that message that cares. You helped one person connect with. That's all that really matters. And
very true.
Actually, we learned that from Lisa Lampanelli was on the show. She talked about that she did this play, mm-hmm. and the play was about some of the struggles that she had with weight loss. She didn't care if she made money on the play. If she helped 10 people with the weight loss issues that she had gone through, one person, 2 people, whatever it was, that was all that really mattered. And that's all that really does matter at the end of the day. You know, I know you're in the publicity world and all that stuff,
honestly,
but it really is important to know for you that that's the key thing.
That's why I did this book.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, you know, my bread and butter and my you know, my livelihood is always going to be public relations.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm not abandoning my company in any stretch. I did this book because when I was in news, and I have a couple chapters about this, what I loved the most, that's not why I went into the industry, because I obviously wouldn't know that I would get this kind of like fulfillment from it, but it was covering like fires or devastation and putting people out when the lights went down and the cameras were off, working with people who weren't necessarily having the best resources, being able to say to them, hey, you should call this person, or this is what you should do, or I would make a call for them. That made me feel so good, right? And then fast forward, now I'm in PR. I do get those opportunities here and there via my clients' amazing talent. Like, I helped this woman. She went parachuting and she fell on her face, and it was made national headlines. And she literally broke every bone in her body, including all of the bones in her face. And she had all this like plastic surgery and all this stuff. And one of the articles I read in like In Touch or something was that she couldn't get her teeth back, and she always loved to smile. So at the time I was working with this amazing periodontist, and I researched her using my due diligence from being in news, and found out how to get her called In Touch. I think I spoke regularly with that reporter, and they put me in touch with her, and long story short, my client brought her in. He gave her a new smile. She got a full mouth donated of implants that's worth like several $100,000. It changed her whole outlook on life. He got amazing exposure. He was on Oprah. We got him all this which was great. Right. But I still keep in touch with this woman. This was like 2 years into PR. So if this book does that for one person, it gives them like the courage to take a leap of faith, or pull themselves out of sadness, or, you know, go back to work, or pursue a career that they didn't have the courage to before because they didn't think they could. That is all I want from this book.
Well,
that is
awesome.
Literally why I wrote the book.
And I can't wait till it comes out and I get to read it. I want to ask you this question because I was just watching. What the Thrive Loud listeners need to know is Mindie was smiling here when she was talking about helping somebody. And I think that's what maybe you were put on this planet to do in some weird way. I think
that's my calling, Lou. I do.
So on the days that you're not helping somebody, or you're not effectively doing your job, or things are off, or you're dealing with the book publicity tour, which is coming up, which is going to be stressful, and all the craziness that's going on, when you're not really thriving on all cylinders, who or what practice do you seek to get yourself back on the thriving track?
Well, I like to talk to...
Hold on. Well, very well.
I talk on the phone a lot to my friends.
Okay.
I rely heavily on them. There's a few amazing women that, are like sisters to me. I'm very blessed to still have both of my parents in my life, so I obviously consult with them. I think I'm a talker. Some
I couldn't tell.
Say I overshare, but I'm an open book, literally. You can read it soon. But I that is really probably my strongest tool, is just to kind of like talk it out. But I like to run. Mm-hmm. I got into that when I was getting, in the process of getting divorced. And I actually have a chapter of my book about that too, about how it was like I'm not an athlete. I'm sure the people at home or in the car, they can't see me. I'm not athletic. I was a ballerina my whole life, but
that takes some athletic skills.
A little, but I mean, I was never like one to run. Okay,
gotcha.
That was my point.
Fair enough.
In fact, I started running, and I would post some pictures like on Instagram or what have you, and some of my friends from high school would reply, "Is that you? Are you running with like the emoji with the eyes open?" So I ran so much. I really felt like relief. I felt like an amazing stress lifted from me. And then I ran so much. I did a half marathon.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Oh, so that's great. So you're combining both of it, talking to your friends and using all the physical.
Talk and run.
Okay, so let's do the plug section here before we get to some of the fun stuff. Okay. Yeah, I know. Oh my God, I've got the publicist, so therefore we're obviously going to get the pub.
What do you need me to plug? I'll plug it all.
So, Mindy, where can we find everything there is to know about you?
Okay.
Hold on, I'll say this. We will put this in the show notes, but it always comes better when we hear it from you.
Okay. All right. So for my... Here we go. Drum roll, please. Here, for my PR firm, it's MB and Associates PR.com. And then we're also on, Twitter, MBPR, MB and Associates, and all of that good stuff. And then for me, all of the information about my book, about my upcoming speaking engagements and signings and press. I'm doing Good Day LA in a week, and I have a lot more coming up down the pipeline nationally and locally too. It's MindieBarnett.com. And then my book is now available for pre-sale on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And it will be available on Kindle. Like if you sign up soon, you can get it on Kindle in January. And then it will be in store shelves all over the country starting in the middle of February in time for Valentine's Day. So love thyself.
Okay, so now I've got two questions here. I'm going to do them a little out of order because I want to know how this is going to be. I'm going to hit you with the signature Thrive Loud question right now, which is, what is your all-time favorite movie?
I hate this question, Lou.
Yes. By the way, every guest does. I think that's why I now ask it. People say, should I drop it? We just had...
No, you need to keep it. This is your branding.
No, but we just had
I hate it for me because the answer isn't going to be exactly what people would expect.
We just had the 200th episode. We ran a special movie countdown from all the movies that everybody listed.
I saw that, yeah. Or heard it, yeah.
And we listed all the different movies, and then people said, are you now going to stop the movies? I go, no, because every time I ask the guest this question, they always cringe, and it's so much fun to watch them suffer through this question. So I just can't get rid of it.
Okay. So I actually have two. Is that bad?
Two is fine.
All right. So my first one, I would say, I know, hold the laughter, is The Notebook, because I love I'm a romantic at heart.
You're not the only person who have selected The Notebook. There have been a few.
That makes me feel good. Okay. I just think it's super romantic. I love that they fell in love at a young age. They main characters, I can't remember their names at the top of my head, but nevertheless, I have them pictured in my head, and the actors' names. And then they obviously, for circumstances, got separated. They found each other, and they stayed together. And even in their elder years, like one was sick, the other one stayed. It's just a very sweet story, and the love that I'm seeking, and I think all of us seek, to have a partner that would stick with you through thick and thin, so through that one for sure. And then I can't tell a lie, Lou. I do like The Devil Wears Prada.
Well, that is fitting. We'll
for a variety of reasons.
We'll leave it as a ... I having now met you in person, I can now understand why. But more notably, also from the world that that you're coming in.
Yeah, it's a fun industry. It is fashion and that excitement.
And the movie is fun.
And I love fashion.
And the woman who wrote it is a good friend, so we'll talk more about
You know Lauren?
Very well, yeah.
Oh, I love her.
Yes.
She's the best. I just read her other book, and can I plug her too?
You can plug When Life Gives You Lululemons. What a great title.
I'm like, I should do her PR. No, she doesn't need my help, but like, I'm always like, I should do her PR, because I have told so many people to read that book and have lent my copy out to so many friends. That book is so funny.
We'll just have to tag her in this conversation.
Yeah, you
or
can.
Some kind of promotion that we'll do here for her. We'll do that for you.
Lauren, we love you. And I would love to take you to lunch, Lauren.
Well, there you go. Lauren, you have an invite out there. So with that was my signature question, but here's the better question.
Okay.
You are about to go on a publicity tour for your own book.
Yes.
And this is what you do for a living.
Yes.
Where you help people promote, not just for books, but for lots of different PR things.
Right.
How critical are you going to be on how this process is managed for you?
Oh, I'm easygoing.
Oh.
I truly... I am, Lou, I promise. No, I really am. Like, I've done a little media already. I had a book launch in Philadelphia, and the Philly Inquirer they sponsored it. The Philadelphia Inquirer, the big paper in Philadelphia, for those of you who don't live in Philadelphia. I'm doing a bunch of things in New York in the spring, doing something out in LA, as I mentioned, and some other stuff. So no, I mean, I think I love being on camera, and I just want to make it as easy and as entertaining for the interviewer if possible, so I'm very easygoing. I truly, when I'm the guest, I'm like, whatever. It's fine.
I was going more along the lines of all the planning of everything, how it goes. Right? That's part. I know you'll be great on camera and interviews and all that.
No, I'm very organized, but I've become a client of my firm, so I'm not actually pitching myself.
Right, someone else
I have someone pitching for me, and but annoying to her is every day she's got her client in her face. Let's book.
That's where I was going.
I gotcha.
You basically are like,
I
don't
tried to
fuck
skirt
up.
around that a little bit during my publicity tap dance. Yeah.
Mindie Barnett, this has been a true pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Charming as you are, and I wish you only success with the book, with all your promotions and everything. May you thrive a lot each and every day.
Thank you. Likewise. It's been a pleasure, and I'm a huge fan, so I want to have you on my show next.
Well, we may have to do that.
Okay, great.
So to all the Thrive Out listeners out there, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.